What's good, everybody? Welcome into Betting the PFL with Coach and Parker. I am the coach. Ian will join us momentarily, and I could not be more fired up. This is week number 3 in a row that we head to Universal Studios in Orlando for the PFL World Tournament. Now, so far, it's been absolutely amazing. 11 finishes in the 16 fights that we've had in week 1 and week number 2. Now, we head into the middleweights and the lightweights. We have 3 former champions on the card this Friday. We have Impa Kasanganay and Sadabu C. They'll be fighting at 185, really their natural weight. Can't wait to ask Ian about those two. Then, a returning champion, Gadzi Rabadanov. Can he make it 2 years in a row, going with the season and now into the one-shot World Tournament? Now, pay attention to the times because we're starting much earlier this week. At 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, it's the pre-fight show on ESPN+. Then at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, it is the early card. Then get this, at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we're on ESPN and ESPN+ with the 5-fight main card. So let's get it started. Well, there he is right there. My man, Ian Parker, fresh as a daisy. Ian, I just gave you 3 names. Do you think they should be the 3 that should be considered the favorites in their respective divisions?
Yeah, that would make the most sense. You know, for Impa Kasanganay, he started off at middleweight, came to the PFL, made quite the splash at light heavyweight. But we saw last season when he felt the real power of a true 205er. And what the interesting part was the year before he went against Josh Silveira, who's also going to be fighting both in their natural weight class. You know, Gadzi Rabadanov, I give him a lot of credit, one of the only returning champs who wanted to come back into the tournament. Look, this is going to be an exciting night. A lot of competitive fights. Sadabusi and Rasta right now pretty close to even on the betting lines for the most part. And C now as a middleweight is wild. I can't believe he ever made 170. A lot of good fights. Rasta's a beast. Should be a good one.
I really think that after the first 2 weeks in Orlando, 11 finishes in 16 fights, that these 8 fighters that are in the tournament are going to be looking at things saying, listen, we've got to step up our game. I think we're going to have absolute bangers this week. How much do you think the first 2 weeks will affect this week?
Well, I think it's a combination. One, I think definitely that the tone has been set. You know, last week, I don't think any of us had expectations of that many finishes, but we were proved wrong in the best way possible, along with some tremendously huge underdogs that unexpectedly hit, which is what makes this tournament so exciting. And compared to last year where they kind of sometimes, you know, if you were already into the second round or you knew you were in the playoffs, you didn't go as hard. All you got to do is win a decision. Right now, it's one and done. So you got to put your best foot forward every step of the way and not worry about what's next, because what's right in front of you is most important. And I think that's another reason why we're seeing a lot of finishes. I mean, look what Liz Carmouche did last week.
She was amazing. And she had some bucket list finishes she wants to take into the rest of the season. So that will be in June. Let's now get into this week, Ian Parker. And I want to start right with the main event. And this is what I'm very much looking forward to. Impa Kasanganay, a couple of years ago, he came into the PFL with a great story. He wins the $1 million. It changed his life, and it changed his perception. He's taking on Fabian Edwards, the brother of former UFC champion Leon Edwards. Now, there's a lot of numbers circling around at different books. Impa, about a 200, minus 200 favorite. That's kind of been our benchmark here at Betting the PFL for a straight bet. How do you see this fight going? How are you handicapping it?
For me, I'm going to look at what the over ends up being. My assumption would be 2.5. It's probably going to be in that 200 number also. So if you want to take this fight to go the distance, I think we've seen Impa do that quite a few times when the competition has been above his first round fights, right? It's either he gets a knockout win and then he fights a little bit more tough competitors and it goes to a decision, but he does so well because of his cardio, his resilience. He's good on the ground. His stand-up is very solid. But Fabian Edwards, coach, he's not just Leon Edwards' little brother, right? This is somebody who has been very competitive. He's knocked out guys like Gegard Mousasi. He gave Johnny Eblen a little bit of a run in that first fight until he got finished. In the second one, he just didn't really show up. And that's kind of the MO of the Edwards brothers as a whole. They have all the talent in the world, but sometimes they get in that cage and they kind of just lose track of the moment. So for Fabian, he's getting a very big opportunity here to go out there and beat someone in Impa. If he does that, his name gets a huge stock market up. But if he goes out there and lays an egg and Impa just runs through him, I don't know if we see him again. But for me, I'm going to look at Impa to win this one by decision. I like this fight to go the distance. I like the over. I think Fabian's good enough, though, to keep this competitive.
And let's also remember that Impa has also fought Johnny Eblen, and he was winning that fight all the way into the third round when he got by Eblen as well. All right, let's go to our co-main event of the evening in the lightweight division. Gadzi Rabadanov and Mark DeCasey. Now, this is a former champion from just a few months ago, so the momentum is there. Your thoughts?
Well, right now, I think he's the one to beat. I think what we saw last year at Rabanov is he's not just a wrestler. His striking looked fantastic. And he's going to be in a very interesting situation here because Mark DeCasey, when he first got into the UFC, had his success. He was a kickboxer who couldn't wrestle. Towards the end of his career there, he learned how to wrestle, and he was taking out other strikers. Here, he's going to have to stuff the takedowns and keep the fight on the feet. He's the better kickboxer. Rabanov goes back to being a wrestler here. I like Gadzi Rabanov to get the win. He will be a parlay piece for me, but you cannot sleep on DeCasey. He's got some really good kicking going on. He can take out that calf. And if he can keep this fight on the feet, Coach, these odds will be a lot closer than what we expect. But if he allows Gadzi Rabanov to set the tone and wrestle, he's going to be in for a long, miserable night.
Yeah, Rabadanov will probably go off at north of minus 400 or so favorite. So that's why you put him in a parlay piece. So listen to Ian on that. Don't lay minus 400 because then we're not going to listen to you if you do that ever. All right, let's go to the next fight. And this one is a mental challenge for me. Sadabusi, he won the PFL title a couple of years ago. He's a very slender fighter. He's a kickboxer. He can get you upside the head very, very quickly, taking on Dalton Rusta. But this one may go off as basically even, minus 120 on either side. Do you see this as an even fight?
Man, this really depends. I think this is a step up for Rasta a little bit. You know, he is still a prospect in his own right, and Sadabusi has fought everybody that there is to fight in the PFL in multiple divisions now. So for Sadabusi, if he could keep Rasta from taking him down and is able to strike from a distance, it's hard to see anybody beating Sadabusi with that power and speed and how he kickboxes. His takedown defense has gotten way better. He's done a great job with that in Extreme Couture. And for Rasta, if he doesn't burn himself out trying to get takedowns, he got to pace himself too, because that's the whole thing. If he can't get C down, he's not winning on the feet. So I would lean Sadabusi in this fight based on the evolution in his takedown defense. And we know between the two, he's going to be the better striker.
And now I do need to throw this out there because there is kind of a weird caveat to this fight. So Sadabusi's wife back in Vegas is due with a child any day now. And Sadabusi plans on fighting and then getting on the first flight back to Las Vegas. How much do you think mentally that could be a distraction for him heading into the Smart Cage on Friday night?
Well, if he's planning on not going back until Saturday anyway, whether she has the baby now or has it then, it sounds like he's flying back regardless. So I think maybe it could be motivation for him. You know, having a kid on the way, wants to go into fatherhood with a win, provide for his family. You know, sometimes that's a huge motivator for these fighters. Having kids changes the game than when you don't, right? When you're fighting for someone else other than yourself, it changes things. So for Sadabusi, if that's an extra motivator, might be a tough thing to stop.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to kind of watch. Kind of almost like a Phil Mickelson years ago at the Masters. You got the phone ready to go. We'll see if he goes in the Smart Cage or not. All right, let's move on to fight number 4 on the main card, a 5-fight main card on ESPN and ESPN Plus. I can't believe it. Mads Burnell and J.J. Wilson. You talk about personalities. My goodness, oozing out of their ears, but they've got to harness that for their fight on Friday night. Now, when you look at the odds, again, this is in the sweet spot. JJ will be a favorite in that minus 150 range. What do you make here?
Coach, start barking. That's got dog money written all over it. Mads Burnell. Look, JJ Wilson is a talented fighter. He has been out since 2023 while Mads Burnell has been in the tournament. He beat Clay Collard. And look, between these two guys, right, the last 3 fights, J.J. Wilson all went to a decision. 6 out of Mads' last 7 by decision. For me, this depends on the fight IQ of Mads Burnell. He is a ground specialist who likes to stand on the feet and bang. And against Michel Dufour, he paid for that because he went to bang instead of trying to get on top. He got caught and he got submitted, which rarely happens. I'm going to go, for me, this is underdog or pass, unless you want to take the over. Based on these guys in the past, both very durable, a lot of decisions, as I just mentioned. So either fight goes a distance, over 2.5, because it's going to definitely go there. But if you want to play an underdog on the main card, Mads Burnell is the play.
All right. I'm glad you used the word bang when it comes to that fight, because the fight right before it, you're going to see the exact same thing. And there was a lot of discussions this week here in the PFL on what the fight order should be. Collard is an absolute OG. He's been in the PFL for several years now. And the one thing we know, Ian Parker from Clay Collard, he's going to stand right there and he is just going to take it as well as he gives it. So when we look at the numbers, again, the sweet spot. I love that these fights are close in that neighborhood of minus 150. Your thoughts against Alfie Davis?
Yeah, I would take Clay Collard here. For Alfie Davis, the path to victory for him, just like anyone else when you're fighting Clay, it's you put him on his back. Clay gets a little too comfortable there and doesn't try to concede. He concedes to it. Instead of trying to stand back up, he's so confident he could punch his way out or he could pull something off. Alfie Davis is pretty good when he gets in the right position on the ground. His striking is okay. He's still on the younger side of fighters. He's had a bunch of fights in Bellator. So it's not like he hasn't seen this level of competition before. But Clay Collard is a guy who is as fan favorite as it gets. He's going to fight for your money. He's going to point down. He's going to swing for the fences in his own maniacal boxing way, right? He's got great boxing skills, but in the Clay Collard way, based on experience, who he has fought. If this fight stays on the feet, Clay Collard all day and twice on Sunday. If you get scared because round one he gets put on his back, or if you want to wait on that line, Coach, I wouldn't be shocked if Collard got put on his back wrestling-wise, lost round one. Those odds then go to plus 10 Clay Collard. He comes out of the gate with the cardio and the stand-up at rounds 2 and 3 and gets the win. For me, I'm going Collard regardless of what time it is.
And this is a public service announcement. If you're going to bet live, you better be watching the fight live. Too many people just look at their phones and they see the numbers changing, but they're not watching exactly what's going on in the actual fight.
That is as good as a point as it gets for any sports, because look, in any other sport, you could do that and probably be okay 7 times out of 10. When we have 3 blind mice as judges, and we've seen this in every organization, you cannot go by what that number says at the end of the fight. We've seen robberies happen too many times. So to your point, excellent point. It should feel obvious, but people are degenerates. It gets a little crazy out there. Bet live if you're watching it. Otherwise, play it before or don't play it at all.
There is no doubt about that. Last week, we saw a split decision that had a 30-27 on one side and a 29-28 the other way on the other side. You got to be very, very, very careful. All right, let's flip it over now to a couple of fights on the early card. And Ian, this almost seems like a season with the tournament where a lot of fighters are fighting where they feel comfortable. I think in previous years, guys have taken fights because they wanted to participate. They wanted to be a part of the chase for the $1 million. Josh Silveira was one of those guys, but I thought he was very undersized for the light heavyweight division. Now he moves down to the middleweights, and on Friday he's going to be taking on Mike Shipman. And when you look at the odds, Silveira's probably going to be a pretty significant favorite over minus 200, but what do you see?
That's tough because, and look, I'm a big advocate for Josh Silveira. I think he's drawn probably the hardest schedule out of any PFL fighter in the last 3 years. If you look who he's had to go against between Wilkinson, Sadabu C, Impa twice, right? I don't think any of those other guys got all the top guys that quickly. So for me, I do think the number is a little high though, because Josh hasn't had a win under his belt in a little bit, and Shipman is a tough fight for anyone. Very durable. Good striker. I mean, this guy has no problem taking one on the chin to give you one. Where the difference is here, Coach, is Josh Silveira's wrestling, which sometimes he gets away from. If he could get that takedown, get on top and steal the first 2 rounds, he's good. He's got a chin made of cement, so he's not getting knocked out by anybody in any weight class. We've already seen that. So if you're going to take Josh, you got to get creative here. You got to go like Josh Silveira to win in over 1.5 rounds. That could bring a minus 210 down to a minus 120. And then you just got to hope that Shipman can do it. If you're not confident in Josh winning this fight, I would say play the over because his durability is like literally second to none.
All right, very, very good. Keep your eye on the total and on the number as it moves around throughout the week. Now, the last fight I want to talk about today on this show is in the lightweight division. Primus and Vinicius Sensi. This one, when you look at the odds as you go down, I'm not really sure on where this one should land. From a talent perspective, where do you think it should land?
Well, I think we know exactly who Brent Primus is, right? He's got a very powerful right hand that's predictable, but if it lands, you're getting rocked. but we know how strong he is on the ground. And he's big for the division. He was able to control Clay Collard for the whole time. In his first fight, he got a submission win. I mean, this is a dude that if he gets close enough, he's going to take you down. He's going to be like a backpack, and he's eventually going to get you in a choke or another type of submission. For me, but his stand-up still lacks those skills. They're not clean combinations. It's clearly thrown for power and to set up his takedowns. So if you're going to bet Brent Primus, I would go double method of victory to win by submission or decision. His opponent is good on the feet, and does have a jiu-jitsu background, so I don't think Brent's just going to necessarily take the guy down and sub him right away. Therefore, in those situations, we saw it with Brent and Clay. He rode his back for 3 rounds, landed enough damage for the ref to not stand them up. So for Brent, try to go double method. If not, you might get a very surprisingly good number on him by submission where he's at his best.
Very, very good. So that is insight to 7 different fights. Remember, 5 of those are going to be in the main card on ESPN and ESPN Plus. But before we get out of here, I get so many tweets and text messages. It drives me insane. What is Parker's parlay this week? So, Ian, what is Parker's parlay this week?
I wish I knew. No, I'm kidding. You know what? Coach, you know what? Since this is a betting show, I do want to give a little bit of advice, especially in any organization. The weigh-ins matter. We got to see what these guys do look like going onto the scales. We got to see who can make it to the fights. There's been a lot of changes. And that's not the PFL's fault. This happens in any organization with illness, weight miss. It is what it is. However, if you were to ask me today, which I guess you just kind of did, I would go Gaji Rabanov. I would go Brent Primus. You know what? If Impa is at that 200 number, I do not mind making him the last leg of my parlay. You will get plus odds. Last week we did see some dogs win. I think those 3 favorites do win clean, and the numbers are not as astronomical as last week. So those will be my 3 to put together into a parlay.
Good. You don't get any better analysis, especially from the betting angle, than my boy right there, Ian Parker. So just a reminder on the start times on Friday. The pre-fight show live at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus. Then at 5 p.m. Eastern, we've got the early card. Then at 7 p.m. Eastern, write this down, live on ESPN and ESPN Plus. It's a 5-fight main card. Who will advance to the semifinals coming up in June? That's going to do it for us. We'll see you on Friday. I cannot wait. For Ian, I'm the coach. This has been Betting the PFL with the Coach and Parker. Take care.